We've got some breaking news tonight out of Kentucky, where the country's most famous horse racing track is suspending races for now to examine its safety practices after the deaths of a dozen horses in the last month. This suspension at Churchill Downs starts Wednesday. It's going to go through at least July 3rd, so for roughly a month. Remember, this is a track that hosts the Kentucky Derby, but the company that oversees the track says no single factor has been identified for why all those horses died. In a statement, the CEO of Churchill Downs Incorporated says what happened at the track is deeply upsetting and absolutely unacceptable. You see the statement there, saying they need more time to conduct a top-to-bottom review of safety protocols. Jesse Kirsch is joining us now. And, Jesse, this is after, obviously, those headline-making horse deaths that we had talked about back during the Derby, as we are now just getting into the next sort of Triple Crown race coming up. What are we hearing from the Kentucky Horse Racing Association? Talk us through this.
Yeah, so I want to put this in context,
Please.
Hallie. We saw 7 horse deaths tied to Churchill Downs before the Kentucky Derby. In fact, 2 of those deaths were tied to injuries during pre-Derby races at Churchill Downs on the day of the Kentucky Derby, and both of those cases, we're told, led to euthanizations. And in the week since, we've seen 5 more deaths. So that's now a total of 12 horse deaths tied to Churchill Downs within roughly a month or so. And again, obviously all around the biggest day for that track and arguably for all of horse racing with the Kentucky Derby. Then we have the second leg of the Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes. And this is now just days before the third leg of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes. So this is while horse racing has some of the most intense scrutiny in any year, and now there are obviously even more questions. So Churchill Downs is still moving forward with races this weekend, we're told. So they were suspending races after this upcoming weekend, and they were told that all of the races that were scheduled for the remainder of the time in the weeks ahead at Churchill Downs, those are all being now moved to a location roughly 2 hours away. That's what we're being told by Churchill Downs. The Kentucky regulators who are involved with this, as well as federal authorities that are an organization that has federal backing, I should say. Those groups are continuing, Renaud, to investigate the events that have unfolded at Churchill Downs, and something that the organization from Kentucky, the state regulators, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, something that they've shared in a statement is that they corroborated that there has been no piece of evidence that is showing a pattern so far amongst all these deaths. So at this point, it looks like a strange set of circumstances, a strange coincidence at this point, but the investigations at the state and we know the federal level are ongoing around the incidents that have unfolded there. Now, obviously, this major headline news, Hallie, coming out that they are going to put a pause on the horse racing at Churchill Downs, even though the racetrack has said that there have been tests conducted there and there has been nothing to indicate a pattern amongst these deaths so far.
You talked about the scrutiny, the intense scrutiny right now, given everything you've just laid out on the horse racing sort of industry writ large here. Can you pull on that thread a little more? Because it does seem like that spotlight has intensified.
Yeah, and obviously, horse racing is something that has been scrutinized for a long time. There have been horse racing deaths before. This is not something that is new, but this frequency is not something that is a common occurrence, let alone at one track, let alone tied to a time where the entire sport is arguably going to have its eyes on that track. And so this set of circumstances is at minimum strange, and that's what is drawing, obviously, a lot of attention around this. And on top of that, there is a new federal organization that has support from regulators, or I should say from Congress at a federal level. It's called HISA. This group is meant to be providing that much more attention on the care for horse racing, and they actually have been ramping up some of those efforts in recent weeks. And so it's interesting timing that while that's playing out, you have this going on. So it'll be interesting to see how the track works with the state, works with this federal organization in the weeks to come. And you could potentially see this being something that becomes the standard moving forward, because this is obviously such a high-profile situation for horse racing right now, Hallie.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.